Hi, Hi, I'm that guy that does Q&A. My name's Tony Jones. Here's a bonus question we couldn't fit on Q&A, and it comes from Jack Bush.
Peter Singer, you've said in the past that the only way to stop animal abuse is for everyone to become vegetarian and stop eating meat. But in our current society, I do think that it's a bit unreasonable to expect that to actually happen. So, in light of the recent live export issue, and as a fervent meat eater, what are some more realistic options to stop these horrific issues of animal abuse?
Peter, we will start with you.
Thank you. Yes, look, in the long run, I do think, if we have commercial rearing of animals, we're always going to get some degree of cruelty. But what we've been seeing in the videos of the live export trade go way beyond anything that I think we would see domestically within Australia. And so that ought to be something that we ought to get bipartisan support on saying this has to stop. And to stop it, I think we really do have to end the trade, because it's been going on. I've been following this issue for 35 years. It's been going on. We've had episodes where something comes to light, sheep are dying in horrible, slow ways. There's publicity. The government in charge says, yes, we're going to change the regulations, so this is not going to happen again, and it happens again. And I think the proposals that the government has come up with for regulating are completely inadequate to stop this. They're not even going along with what the Australian Veterinary Association recommended, that is that the trade should stop over the hot summer months. It's really impossible to have decent welfare on these very crowded ships, and they'll still be very crowded, even with the regulations, going into that hot weather. Also, we have no control over what happens to the sheep really at the other end. So I think the only solution is to say, we don't need it, we can stop the trade, we can still send chilled meat or air freight fresh meat, but we don't need to send live animals. We can slaughter them in this country.
Jane, thank you very much. Jane Hume, now 3 of your Victorian Liberal colleagues, led by Susan Lee, today proposed a private members bill to ban the live export trade. It's interesting, it's coming from Victorian Liberals. Do you support them?
No, I don't. In fact, the government doesn't support these particular Liberals, but the beautiful thing about being a Liberal is we're actually encouraged when you're on the backbench to have your say and to put forward these private senators' bills or private members' bills. The Coalition responded to this, and we agree with you 100%, Peter, that the video footage was just so appalling. There was no way you could sit on your hands and do nothing as a response. So the response was to initiate the McCarthy review. It was very swift, it was very thorough, and there were 23 recommendations that came out of that McCarthy review. All 23 have been adopted, and they include things like stock density ratios to make sure that the sheep have plenty of space on the ships, to have things like much harsher fines, not just on the shipping companies, but on the directors of those companies, making them personally responsible. And from a Coalition's point of view, we have also demanded that there is an independent observer from the Department of Agriculture on every one of those ships. Now, there's about 8 ships that go from Australia. Well, last year there was about 8 ships that went from Australia to the Middle East over the northern summer.
Okay, Peter wants to jump in and respond to what you're saying.
I want to jump into what you said about there'll be plenty of space, you said. As it is now, the sheep do not have enough space to all lie down at the same time. They basically have to time-share the floor, which, by the way, is covered in manure and faeces that build up for the whole trip. Now, under the McCarthy recommendations, do you know how much extra space each sheep will get?
30%, around 20.
It's this much. 2 A4 sheets of paper per sheep is the amount of extra space that they will get under the McCarthy recommendations. Is that really going to make a big difference on this ship?
Well, McCarthy was a vet himself, and he was the one that recommended.
Okay.
Well, he was a vet who's worked for the industry, who all his career has been a paid consultant for the live export industry. So I don't think he was a really neutral vet to a point.
Well, okay, now I'm going to bring in Julie, because Labor will have the opportunity to support or not support this private members bill coming from Liberal Susan Lee. Will you support it?
Well, we'll go to caucus on that tomorrow. Certainly the feeling from the people I talk to in the caucus is it's likely. The issue here, of course, is whether or not the government will bring it on for a vote. Without an absolute majority of the House, that bill cannot be brought on for a vote unless the government decides to. You know, if we hear that the Liberal Party members are encouraged to put up such private members bill, then let's have a vote on it. let's actually bring it on, let's have a vote, because we've made very clear that we want to transition out of live sheep exports. We were in government, these things kept happening. The industry has had plenty of time to actually deal with this and clean itself up. The industry itself has said that it cannot guarantee this won't happen again. Anybody that saw that footage or read anything about that footage, it makes you ill. It makes you feel really, really awful. It's revolting, and it cannot be allowed to carry on. It is far too long a journey in far too hot conditions over the northern summer, and the Veterinary Association, the RSPCA, have said that this shouldn't be allowed to continue, and the Labor Party has said that should we win government, we'll transition out of live sheep exports.
And just a final, very quick one, because we're out of time. Will the Liberal Party, will the government let this go to a vote?
Well, I don't think it will right now because we're in the middle of by-elections. I don't know whether you'd want it to go to a vote right now, but most importantly, I think, is that we shouldn't be punishing farmers for the poor behaviour of
Okay,
shippers.
but so you don't want to vote in Parliament at this stage?
I can't speak on behalf of
bring it on.
whether the
on.
government's going to bring that vote on or not, but I don't know whether the Labor Party would want to bring it on while it's in the middle of by-elections.
Okay, we have to leave it there, and that's a question from Jack Bush, and we thank him for it.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, guys. It's always a bit